Okay, so let's just go ahead and finish it off. My phone about to get cut off in its time. I'm gonna sign for mommy time. And the angel said unto the Lord, unto Abraham out the heavens the second time, and said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in the blessing I will bless you, and I will multiply the seed as the star of the heaven, and the sand which is upon the sea shore. And thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemies, and in thy seed thou shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men. They rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And then, it just goes on and talk about the generations of Nahor to Rebekah, and Nahor, once again, I'm not a Bible scholar. I hope I'm saying this right. Nahor is, I want to get this right. Nahor is Abraham's brother. Okay, they got the same father. But it just goes down until Nahor end up having a baby, all the rest of that, whatever. And from that child, one of his sons, he ended up having Rebekah, and Rebekah kind of played an important role in the chapters to come. And in verse 23, it talks about, Sarah's death. Sarah ended up dying. Sarah is Abraham's wife. First wife. That is Isaac's mother. And the one I got a lot of questions for him when I see her. But she ended up passing away. He ended up burying her. And he ended up buying a plot, some land from some people. And he ended up burying Sarah. And once he died, like most husband and wives that want to be buried next to one another. And so that's what 23 talks about, how he go down to the city and he end up buying a plot, aka land or something, to bury his wife. And so we're going to start from 24, okay? And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto the eldest servant of his house that ruled over all he had, I pray, hand of the matter, I will make thee swear, my Lord, the God of heaven, the God of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. Basically, he was telling his right-hand man that I want you to make this promise. And how they used to make the promise, you got to put your hand up under my thigh and make this promise to me that my son will never marry a Canaanite woman. For whatever reason, he did not want his son to marry a Canaanite woman. He said, but thou shalt go unto my country, to my kindred, basically his family, and take a wife upon my son Isaac. Basically, go back to his hometown, go back to his roots, and take one of those wives there. Not the land that we dwell in right now, but the land that we come from. And that's what the servant did, That's what all 24 talks about, how the servant went down to where he was from, and he ended up finding, Rebekah. Rebekah ended up meeting Jacob. They ended up kicking it off. If you want to go a little deeper in relations, they was related. But don't let that stop you, because once again, you got to understand the culture. And I started to understand the culture. It's like back in the day. Like, if I had women, we already know women have no rights. They had a say. Their husband would listen to them. But for other men, they saw them as objects. Okay? And we understand that. Out the window, whatever. Right? But if a man if a father had all these possessions, prosperity, like cattle and things like that, and let's say, for instance, he dies and he don't have a son, right? It will go to whoever his servant was, male servant, oldest servant. But if he had a son, it would go to his son. It wouldn't go to his daughter, it would go to his son. Now, let's just say, for instance, he had a brother or somebody, right? But he had daughters. His brothers or cousins or somebody in the family will be able to take on this person as their wife to take care of them. We can't really talk about it because if we read a little bit further down in the Bible, a lot of people is so quick to say, I want a Boaz, I want a Boaz, I want a Boaz. But when we really think about it, Boaz had to go down the chain of command. He had to go make sure that that cousin didn't even want Ruth. He had to make sure that he didn't even want whatever came with Ruth. He didn't want that in order for him to get them. So, once again, we got to respect the culture before we start slandering stuff, okay? So, that's what 24 talks about, how he met Rebecca, all that, whatever the case may be, right? And then we end up getting to 25. Abraham ended up meeting another woman, ended up having more kids by this other woman. Ended up having concubines, all the rest of the other stuff, right? And like I said, Isaac met Rebecca, and they hit it off. They end up, being together. And then it talks about the 12 nations of Ishmael, how God was going to bless Ishmael with 12 sons, and each son is going to have their own nation, and everything that God said, it came about. But then we get to Esau and Jacob. Esau and Jacob is the sons of Isaac that he had by Rebekah. We are in Genesis 25 at this point. Esau and Jacob were twins, basically, right? Esau being the oldest, Jacob being the youngest. And Rebecca was just like, man, they fighting too much up in there, la, 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 right? God was like, look, the younger one will have to, it's like 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated by the bowels, and one person shall be stronger than the other. The elder will serve the younger. So basically, the oldest son will serve the younger son. That's what God was telling Rebecca. And so she ended up having them. She ended up calling one Esau because he came out a little hairy, red, red skin. Red hair, had extra hair up on him. It's not too far-fetched in today's society where we will see individuals with excess hair on them. And then Jacob. Then she named the other person Jacob because after... it was a story right before that Jacob came out first. Well, not Jacob came out first. Jacob stuck his hand out. And back in the day, they used to tie little ribbons around their hand to know which one came out first and which came out second, A, B, or C. So what this telling me is that twins been in the generation, okay? Been popping out twins, you feel me? But anyways, Jacob stuck his hand out first. And the lady tied it out, but he ended up bringing his hand back and push Esau out. Esau ended up coming out, and then Jacob ended up coming out. I thought that was very interesting because it's like, I just want to show y'all that I'm here. But here you go. There go my brother Esau. He's really supposed to go first. And this remind me of having a younger sister, and she just want to be front and center. She just love being front and center, and you just like, girl, go ahead. Go ahead, do your thing. Do your thing. But that's who she is. And later down the line, we will find out that Jacob, this is who he is. Okay? But she ended up naming Jacob because she said his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and she called him Jacob. And Isaac was, he was a little old, when they ended up having the twins. And the boys grew, and Esau became this hunter. He came out in the field. So he did become strong. He was stronger than Jacob. But then don't forget that God said the older will serve the younger brother. So we you know, they finished doing all that. One day, Esau was making some soup. We're gonna say Esau was in the kitchen cooking it up. You feel me? So Esau ended up in the kitchen. No, Jacob in the kitchen cooking it up. I'm sorry. Jacob in the kitchen cooking it up. And Esau just came out from being a hunter, you know, out there in the woods doing what he do. But he was very, very hungry. Very, very hungry. When I say very, very hungry. That Jacob said, I will give you something to eat if you sell me your birthright. Now I had to go figure out, okay, birthright, what all come in the package? You feel me? What all comes with this birthright? That you're willing to give it up for something to eat. But as you get further along in the scripture or further along in the book, you realize, like, okay, maybe Esau, like, my birthright, that don't mean nothing right now, because whatever my dad blessed me with, by me being the oldest, I know whatever my dad died, I know I'm gonna get what I'm gonna get. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm gonna get what I'm gonna get. But he ended up selling his birthright to his brother Jacob. Shady, right? We gonna keep going. And then so his dad was about to die. Okay. Isaac was about to pass away. You know. And I ain't gonna say he was about to pass away. He was getting older. He was getting older. And I'm just gonna read it because I'm getting a little confused a little too, right? So we at 26. That was all 25. That was all 25. The drama, right? Bro, that's your brother. You would rather say, give me your birthright and I'm gonna give you something to eat. You will sell your birthright to get something to eat. That's how much you starving. But my thing is, I feel like Isaac must didn't pass down that faith test or that faith, that belief of God. Because if he did, he would know that Jehovah Jireh, God will provide. I don't need that, my brother. We good. So I think Isaac just forgot to, pass something down. Like Abraham. Because if we keep reading, we're going to find out a lot of things transpired between Jacob. And Jacob, ended up having Joseph and having other women, other side chicks. His heart belonged to one, but I'm going to give you all my kids. Jacob had some issues. Literally, Jacob had some issues, but for some reason they highlighted Jacob in Genesis. Well, Moses highlighted Jacob in Genesis, and it's just like, why? Why? If Esau was strong and Esau was the firstborn, like, why did they highlight Jacob? Because that's what I thought about after I finished reading about Jacob and his thing, what he had going on. But I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. So today we read Genesis 22 through 25. Genesis 22 through 25. That's what we read. We kind of summarized the end because it was a little long. It's about to be 45 minutes. Like 30 minutes. 30 to 45 minute video. And I think that's just way too long. But yeah. We're gonna pick back up on 26, probably tomorrow or later on tonight, because I gotta do some catch up. It's been 3 days and I ain't did nothing. So I just want to leave you with this. Whenever you feeling stuck or whenever you feeling like you don't know how you gonna pay your bills or how you gonna get through or how you gonna be this great parent or this great role model to this individual, Jehovah Jireh. If you don't know how to put it in words, if you don't know what to say, or if you don't know how to write it out, just write Jehovah Jireh. And just keep writing it. And just keep writing it. And just keep writing it and keep writing it and keep writing it until you realize that God will provide. I might not have what I want to have right now, but that does not mean that I'm not going to get it. That don't mean that I'm not going to get it. But one thing about it, two things for sure. Noah, Abraham, and Jacob. I'm going to take that back. Noah, Abraham, and Isaac. They saw what God did. And they seen what God could do. And with the promises that God had made to them, it came true. It came true. He said, I'm going to bless your generations like the stars in the sky. Have you ever counted the stars? I don't even want to try. And then he said, I'm going to bless your generations like the sand in the sea. Have you counted the sand in the sea? I'm not even going to try. So if you're willing to do it for Noah, you're willing to do it for Abraham, you're willing to do it for Isaac, surely you could do it for